Hi, everyone. We'll start in about 2 minutes for Terri Libenson, talk about Truly Tyler and her other work. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Chaucer's Books Virtual Author Discussion with artist and author Terri Libenson. My name is Michael Takeuchi, and I'm the events coordinator at Chaucer's Books, a 47-year-old independent bookstore located in Santa Barbara, California. To purchase Truly Tyler and Terri's other books, to browse other titles, or check out our upcoming events, please go to our website at chaucersbooks.com. While our guests, panelists, and I are the only ones seen and heard on this webinar, please feel free to utilize the Q&A function located at the bottom of your screen, and we hope to get to your questions. Today's event is also being simulcasted on our YouTube channel. So for YouTubers, if you would like to ask a question to Terri and our moderator, please type in the chat and we'll get to that. So I'm going to turn on the little recorder here and we're going to begin. All right, so let's begin. To introduce today's guests, I'd like to bring out our teen queen and kids room associate extraordinaire, Suzanne Rourke. Suzanne, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Mike?
Great. So I'm going to ask you one question before you introduce our author.
Okay.
Why did you bug me so much to bring out Terri Libenson for this event?
I think, especially in the last 10 years, graphic novels have had a huge surge in like the middle grade YA genre, and like hers really stand out as being very unique, both visually and just she has a unique voice, but at the same time, her themes are very universal to the point where like I was just like viscerally like pulled back into junior high, mostly in a good way. And I think it's really relatable for almost every kid can relate to these characters, and I know I can. And yeah, it's just they're really fun reads, and they teach really valuable lessons, but not in an overly didactic way. They're just really fun.
Yeah. Well, this timing of this book is great because you have a son who's in middle school.
I do. My son just turned 13 and he's in 7th grade, so having a male lead in a middle school graphic novel was really a cool thing to see, and he definitely can relate to the issues that are kind of discussed in that book. So
All right, well, that's great. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to tune out here. Why don't you introduce Terri for us?
hi, Terri.
Hi. I wasn't sure when to turn my camera on. So.
Yeah.
So I thought now.
That would be good, yes. So yeah, I've been doing I usually read fantasy, but I've been doing kind of a deep dive into, the junior high graphic novel genre, and yours are just so great because they have the unique kind of style of having the separate chapters, but then also the full-on graphic novel chapters, and also just they're so relatable. It's kind of ridiculous. Like when I read Invisible Emmy, I was like, oh yeah, that was me. But then there's also all the other characters, like I can relate to all of them, including like Brianna, Tyler, everybody. And I don't think there's any kids out there that can't relate to, most of the characters in some way or another. And that's amazing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's the goal. I know. And that's a challenge for me too, to try and introduce a pretty wide array of different characters, especially main characters, because they tend to rotate and change out. So it's so I have to get to know all of them pretty well.
Right. Yeah, and they all interconnect in just such great ways, and like it always kind of ties back together, and there's always these really cool relationships that are formed between them.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah,
So yeah, it was funny when I was reading Invisible Emmy, just like I got the like just visceral like being hit in the head with a volleyball, and like just the trying to figure out who to sit with in lunch, just like I hadn't thought about junior high in so long, and I was just like, oh, I'm back.
Yeah, it could be terrorizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Emmy was me, so that's how she came about. It's like I tend to work very autobiographically. So before doing these books, I wrote a comic strip, which was pretty not semi. It was pretty autobiographical.
Right. Yeah, I looked at that and I was like, oh yeah, it's huge.
Yeah. So, but for the books, instead of writing autobiographically as an adult, sort of from an adult perspective, I decided to do a deep dive, and because even though I don't remember the day-to-day stuff that I did when I was in middle school, I definitely remember the feelings that I had. I remember what it was like. I remember, just how terrified I was all the time, and how shy I was, and how I tended to express myself or not. So yeah, that came out pretty naturally.
Yeah, just the crushes, just the oh god, he talked to me, and like turning bright red, and like I can oh god.
Oh god. It's all coming back.
Exactly. Well, and then your daughter was about that age, right, when you started reading those, so she kind of gave you input on like.
She did. Yeah, my younger daughter. My older daughter, I think, was she already in high? She may have already been in high school, but my younger daughter was, I think, in 7th grade when I wrote Emmy, and she helped me with the first 2 books, mainly with the first book, and gave me great feedback. The second book, I kind of forced her to read because she was kind of outgrowing it by then, and then after that, she's like, just stay away. Got my own stuff going on, so. But yeah, she was very helpful, although her personality was completely different from mine. So I wasn't really basing any characters on her per se. Yeah, maybe some of it creeped in, but yeah.
Yeah, my son's like that too. He started junior high, and he just that first month he was just so self-conscious, so freaked out, just like, are people judging me? People are watching me, like everything's and then he just like kind of got into his stride the next month and like started wearing like kaleidoscope goggles and like playing D&D sessions. And now he's just like owning it. He's just like, yeah, I'm a
good
geek.
For him.
That's good.
Yeah, that's great. Because I don't know what it is, but I just remember distinctly feeling both like there was a spotlight on me, yet I felt alone at the same time.
Right, isn't that weird?
Kind of.
You feel like everybody's watching you, but at the same time, you're like, oh, nobody cares.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the best.
Right. Well, that's the great thing too, because I think it's super universal, because like these could take place at any time. Like not to be too spoilery, but like, positively Izzy, it's just like, oh, this is really universal. Like you can't. And I had to go back and check. Like, wait.
Yeah.
And then like anytime that they're talking to their parents or their teachers, just like, those universal themes of insecurity or like ghosting friends because you felt they were dragging you down, that kind of thing. Just, it's of its time, but it's also just a universal thing that everyone has to deal with in junior high. It's just such a.
Right. And I'll tell you, it was interesting when I was writing Emmy. I wrote it really sort of. I didn't go by an outline, or it wasn't structured at all. It was the only book that was really like this. For every other book, it's I pretty much follow. I have an idea and I follow an outline. This one, it was just kind of a stream of consciousness thing. I decided I just wanted to embody this character and just write from her voice and see where it took me. And it was perfect because I didn't have a deadline then. I didn't have a
Right.
publisher then, so I could do whatever I wanted.
Oh, the leisure of not being successful yet.
Yeah, exactly. See, there are advantages. So yeah, and I took my time. I took like a year and a half to really write it out, just whenever I had free time. And I remember, luckily the story kind of came to me as I wrote it, but it occurred to me when I was writing it as all these themes started to pop up, like the ghosting thing, and
Right.
just feeling excluded, things like that. I realized, oh my gosh, I just realized that I, in fact, ghosted a friend when I was in middle school, and I didn't even really realize it. It never really registered. It was almost like we kind of had a falling out or going our separate ways. But really, I remember I was kind of inching myself away from her and trying to, make other friends, because I felt we didn't really have anything in common anymore. And then I was kicking myself. And now I feel like I owe her an apology big time.
Well, that's the great thing about art too, is you can work through those things, right? Like,
Yeah.
I had a scene about that.
Very cathartic.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely did that too, as like shy and like, insecure as I was. There were definitely like, I kind of got in with like the cheerleaders in the popular crowd because I was a cheerleader for a bit. And they're like, oh, you don't want to date that guy. Oh, you don't want to hang out with them. And I'm just like, now I'm just like, wow.
Wow. So you
really
encompassed every world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me, I was just a dork.
Oh, I was a total dork too. I just like tried to pretend I wasn't for a bit, and then I was like, no, I'm a theater dork. That's what I am.
You know what I was gonna say? Maybe maybe if that's where you are, if that's what you are, then I mean, now it's easy for us to say embrace it, but of course back then,
right? And I think I think it's so great now that kids really can embrace being a dork, being a nerd, being like whatever. Like, kids are so much more free and open now. They can just decide who they are early on, and they like really own their identity. And like, I think it's books like yours that really help with that. Like, because if I had books like yours when I was a kid, I would have been like, oh, this is universal experience. Other people feel this way. Like, I'm not alone. Like, and I can, be myself and stand up for myself and do these things. Like, I feel like there was a dearth of that when we were growing up. There wasn't a lot.
I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah. These graphic novels I would have just devoured. Absolutely. I mean, I was really into comics. So I read comic books or comic strip anthologies, things like that, collections like that. But yeah, no, we really didn't have these type of graphic novels, especially for middle grade. And oh wow, yeah, it would have been really helpful.
Right. Not that there was anything wrong with that, but we had like Babysitter's Club, like Sweet Valley High, all that stuff. But like there was nothing that like really was relatable. That was kind of helped you deal with big.
I think I was in a Judy Blume phase for a while.
Oh yeah, there's Judy Blume.
Yeah, I'm probably a little older, so.
And that was the thing too, like when I was reading a couple of them, and they're like, oh mom, I don't want to hear about the 90s, it was ancient history. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. I think I referenced that in the book too, in one of these books, something about like the 90s, like 90s.
I think it was the Amy one where she's like,
oh, was it? Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah. It was worse for me. I was 80s, so yeah, we're going way back. But yeah, things were still in color then though, so it's okay.
That's true.
Yeah,
especially the graphic novel format, like it's so much more accessible, because unfortunately there are a lot of kids that are reluctant readers nowadays, especially with all the instant just media constantly being on YouTube and all this stuff. So like a lot of those kids just like have trouble with full-on novels, and like this is just so accessible and relatable, and I think it's really important that they have these.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it could just be part of their reading, or if not, as much as they want. I mean, I think as long as a kid is reading, no matter what they're reading, it's great. Like I said, I grew up on comics, and now I read everything. I'm a voracious reader. But that was my gateway. when I was growing up. So, and I think these graphic novels can be very similar, although a lot of them are so literary. I mean, depending what you pick up. And what I love about it too is just the visual language too, because not only are you reading text, but you're also getting all the subtle nuances just in someone's expression, or you have certain pauses. You're sort of reading in between the lines, so to speak. So it's great because they're just kind of all encompassing. But yeah, I fully agree. I think reluctant readers especially gain a lot from them. So yeah, and what's nice is I think now they're starting to make graphic novels for even younger kids. I mean, middle grade is, I think, where it's really been at, but now, yeah, it's starting to seep into the younger ages too. Yeah, I'd actually like to try my hand at some of those as well. So we'll see.
That'd be awesome, especially like with your visual style and your unique sense of humor, just with the dead rat. Maybe not dead rat.
Dead rat. You know what? That's it. Dead rat's going to be a main character.
I was going to ask you about that. Can you please do a dead rat?
Dead rat's a little offshoot. Yeah, I don't know where it came from.
It works.
It's got to be in every book.
There it is again. But yeah, just all the little background details are really fun, and just the way the characters can express themselves with like little parentheses or little like, oh, dad's over here being weird, this is happening. You can't really do that in a novel format. Like,
right.
So it's a really fun visual style. And also, especially in Truly Tyler, because you have the kind of chapters, and then you've got the graphic novels, and then you've got the graphic novel within the graphic novel that they're working on, which is really neat. I love that.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, that book was a lot of work.
It seems like just styles tying together.
I call it my pandemic book. It was difficult in every which way for me. I love how it came out. Don't get me wrong. In fact, I think I kind of call this my hard won book, but because I wanted to make a book about a boy for a change, I had a lot of trouble at first because I think I was just overthinking it. I was trying to really get deep into the psyche of how a boy would come across, and I was digging way too deep. And I think the story and just the story wasn't coming together either. I think there were 4 different versions of the story. I had to rewrite it about 4 times, completely. And getting myself really late and in trouble. And, luckily, it was really 3 major tries, and then sort of a 4th semi rewrite. But the 3rd time, something finally clicked. I think I just kind of stepped back and just stopped thinking so much about trying to write from a boy's point of view and just trying to write from the heart again.
Right, just those universal.
Yeah. And then it just then it clicked, and then it just started to write itself, thankfully. And also I was really overcomplicating the plot at first. I was introducing a new kid who comes to school and all these other things. It was just getting really, really a little too layered. So that was another way I had to step back a bit. And then
George R. Martin with Game of Thrones, where you throw in a million.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Don't go all George R. Martin with Game of Thrones, where you throw in a million new thing, and you're like, oh wait.
Yeah, reel it in. So yeah. And then by the time I was finished writing the whole thing, I had about 3 months to illustrate the entire book, and that included the comic book that's in it, which is from this. It's supposed to be in the style of the 2 main characters, Tyler and Emmy. So it had to be kind of kid-like, and I had no time to really experiment with that. So I think I gave myself a day and just played around. And luckily I figured out the styles right away, and it turned out to be really fun. And I had a good time doing that comic book. In fact, I enjoyed it a lot. But yeah, I don't think I ever illustrated up to that point, illustrated a book so quickly.
That's crazy. I can't imagine.
It was crazy, but I don't think I compromised at all.
No.
In fact, I really
Oh,
I'm
no.
super detailed, and I'm type A, so I think I've gone over every single illustration like 10 times. So I was so pleased with the way it came out in the end. But yeah, it was definitely a hard one. But I fell in love with Tyler as I went. This was a boy who I totally would have had a crush on when I was in middle school, for sure. It's a very genuine character.
Yeah, that was definitely, I was harkening back to my middle school crush. I'll mention it. He's not listening. Vince Bird. But I was definitely Emmy.
Out there.
Okay. And like whenever he paid attention to me, I'd freak out. But then I get like overly like, I don't know. Yeah, it was definitely brought back a lot. And mostly good, like in a way that you can laugh about now. Like at the time, it was torture, and like you thought your world was ending. But like now,
well, of course. That's the thing too. That's one of the reasons why I love writing these books, because sometimes I just want to get to like you were saying, that universal kind of humiliation that a kid can feel almost every single day in some aspect or another, major or minor. But just I just want them to feel like not only are they not alone, but also that, believe it or not, this is just a blip in time, and you're not going to care about it. Although it feels like your whole world is falling apart around you at the time. And I could say that because I had the one experience. This was actually a little bit before middle school. This was in 5th grade, and this is what inspired the turning point in Emmy. Do you want to hear a little story?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So if anyone's read Invisible Emmy, there's an incident involving a note, and it's I think it was about 5th grade. I was going to my best friend's house after school because we used to hang out with each other like at one of our homes after school all the time. And we must have been really bored because we decided to write love notes to the 2 most popular boys in our class. And neither of us really had crushes on these boys, but it's just something we wanted to do. We thought it'd be kind of funny. We're definitely not writing it to be serious.
Right.
So we wrote like the most disgusting, mushy gushy, like fangirl kind of, fawning love notes that you could, and we signed our names to them. But we weren't going to give them. We weren't going to give them the notes.
Right.
Or so I thought. So we kind of had a laugh over it. I went home. About an hour later, I got a call from my friend. And she goes, "Hey, guess what?" And I said, "What?" And she said, "Oh, I dropped off your notes at those 2 boys' homes."
Why?
What? And I said, "Oh, did you drop your notes off too?" "No." "Why would you do this?"
Why?
I don't know. Honestly, it's kind of a blur. So this is what she did. I never gave her permission to do that. Never thought she would do that, but this is what she did. So, imagine a tiny little quiet, shy
Oh yeah. Yep.
me having to go to school the next day. Why I didn't stay home, and pretend I was sick. I don't know, but I went to school and I faced the music. One of the boys just completely avoided me. The other boy kept coming over to me and teasing me all day, saying, "Cute letter, Terri, cute letter."
Yep.
And then everybody, the whole class, of course, these boys told the entire class about the notes or showed them. And so I was whispered about the entire day. It was probably the single worst day of my school career. And guess what? The next day, it was over.
Right.
No one cared. And honestly, it was just, I don't think it really haunted me after that. And now I'm Facebook friends with those 2 boys. So we're good.
Awesome. Well, that's the funny thing. Yeah. It's just, the way you do, and not all of them, but like several of the books at least, like it all happens in a day. There's like flashbacks and stuff, but like it just shows how much can happen in a day from just like, normal morning, end of the world. By the end of the day, it's like, oh.
Exactly. And that's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to make it a one day event for Invisible Emmy, because really, just all the drama just happened within those 24 hours, and then it was over and done. And that's the kind of message I wanted to get across. Like, the worst thing or humiliating thing that can happen to you, you never know. It might turn out to be in your favor someday. You might write a book about it.
Right. Or you make new friends, or you
right.
or that guy. Like, because there was definitely a guy that I had a huge crush on. I forget how, but it like got out, and like he was a year older than me. Like nothing was gonna happen there, but he like knew about it, so he'd come over and just like lean over me and like read my shoulder and be like, "Hey," and I'd be like, "Stop it!" Like just turn bright red, like overheating, and just like, "Dear God, why?" But like it was in the long run, like we became friends, and it was funny. It was just when you're like in that hormonal, just
oh yeah, you feel everything. I know. This is all coming back to me too.
Oh God, sorry. This is really short, stupid story, but I was like, I think it was actually a freshman, and I was like lab partners with a sophomore who's like a football star and just like super, super popular. And like I didn't want to take the top off of the crucible because it was hot and I was freaking out. I was like, "Can you do it?" And so just like in the middle of the entire class, it's like, "What? You want me to take your top?" No. That was junior high and high school, which just seemed it seemed horrible in the end of the world, but now you can laugh about it. And
it's a story to tell someday.
Exactly. It's like as a parent, I'm like, oh, they're foreign, these kids these days, like I don't know what's going on in their heads and whatnot, but no, it really is universal. They really are going through the same things we did. And
for sure. And I remember with my older daughter, so she had less of a humiliating thing happen, but more of a just horrible thing happen when she was in 8th grade. She actually made it through junior high pretty unscathed until it was like at the end of her 8th grade year. And she's given me permission to tell this story, by the way.
That's good.
She's in college now, and she's fine. she is perfectly fine. But back then she had this group of friends, and I remember my husband and I were just like, they never really seemed to mesh well, and there was a lot of drama between them, and it seemed like something was always going on, and I never had a great feeling. And it was I think it was right before spring break. Her friends, I don't know, maybe there were maybe 4 or 5 of them. I can't remember. But they sent her a group text and basically dumped her as a friend and listed the reasons why they didn't like her. It was brutal, very brutal. And the kicker was, this was right before we were about to drive 20 hours down to Florida to visit my mother who was living down there for spring break. And so we had to take a 20-hour trip with this crying mess of a girl. To her credit, she was a total trooper, and she tried to put everything aside while we were on vacation. And luckily, when she came back, her old friend group from elementary school kind of took her under their wing again, and she became friends with them again, and a lot of them she's still friends with to this day. They were just so sweet, and so luckily everything turned around and worked out for her, and she's made like a million friends since. But it was horrible. But it was something I remember thinking a few years later when I was writing Just Jamie, my 3rd book. I was thinking, wow, that is such a universal experience. I mean, every kid either, dumps a friend or ghosts a friend, excludes a friend, or they're the victim of that, or both. I'm sure it can happen both ways. And after getting some distance from the whole incident, I was thinking that would be a great story to write from both points of view, both the excluder and the kid who's getting excluded. So that's when I wrote about Jamie and Maya, who are two best friends. One, kind of, dumps the other.
Yeah.
And so that is loosely based off of what happened to my daughter. So it's these very universal experiences. They can be horrible, but somehow work out in the kid's favor, because you really find out who's on your side in the end, and who your real friends are and who you are,
Yeah.
So
yeah, I really like that you told both sides of that, because like there's this kind of just trope of the mean girl kind of, where it's like easy to just have the victim side, and not see that the other people are, suffering from poor self-esteem. Like there are reasons that they are the way. It's not an excuse, but there are reasons, and everybody's going through something. And that's just the fact that at the end you didn't make it easy. Like she still had to work for forgiveness. They still had to work through it. It wasn't just like a happy ending. They had to, it was more organic. They had to actually, work through it, and the way it happens in real life, not just like, oh, hey, we're friends again.
Yeah, well, since that book happens to take place over the course of one day, I mean, definitely events were leading up to that day, and then you sort of see how they kind of pan out later too. Like it's not going to be tied up, perfectly neatly in one day, but yeah, there's definitely a resolution. So. Yeah, that's a tricky part of writing these books, is just kind of getting those little nuances and making sure, you have a satisfying ending, but it's not always, hearts and rainbows. And yeah.
And even like the background characters, just like the secret little motivations, like why does Joe always pick on this girl? Like why is this happening? And you're like, oh, I see.
Yeah. Joe.
I knew a lot of Joes.
Didn't we all? Yeah, I was trying to figure out where I got him from, and I realized, he's kind of a lot of different, he's just that kid. He's that kid. Everybody knows. It's lurking in the background.
Well, it's funny because I think you said something about like what he'd be like when he's grown up too. Like, is he still going to be this guy, or is he going to be, a perfectly normal human being? And I've seen it go both ways.
Thanks. Yeah, that's where it gets fun. Yeah, definitely. I think probably the heart of these books is just the humor, and making sure that you're laughing along the way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I had a lot of giggles, even though I was just like, oh god, junior high. Oh, that's fun.
For sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm really looking forward to your next one, because we get to hear all about Baked Bean Girl and her story. Why she's so obsessed with fiber-rich foods.
Oh yeah. Would you like me to show you the cover, or show the readers the cover? Okay, let me do a little screen share. I'll flash that up. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, can you guys see? Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, there she is, Baked Bean Girl, a little gussied up,
Yeah.
a little polished up, but that's her in all her glory. It's going to be, and yes, she has a name, Ruby, and it's going to follow the format of most of my books, where there are two main characters. So it's Ruby and another girl named Mia, and
they're doing this in the background.
Yeah, she's the one on the right, hiding her eyes. So they're former besties, and it kind of takes you through their relationship now as former besties. And there's some flashbacks. There's there's a lot of I'm trying to think of the right word. Just a lot of more friendship challenges, and it also revolves around Ruby's passion, which is writing, and especially writing poetry. and she attempts to join. She's sort of forced to join the poetry club by Mrs. Wynne, if you guys remember Mrs. Wynne, English teacher.
Word of the day or whatever.
Yeah, with the word of the day. Yeah, word of the week. So yeah, you actually see you definitely see more of Mrs. Wynne in this book too, which is really, she's a great character too. She's really sweet. And you see her and Ruby and her have a nice little teacher-student relationship. But I love Ruby. I think she's like a really fun, quirky character, and there's definitely more to her than meets the eye, obviously.
Right.
And you'll find out why she's always running to the bathroom. Other than,
I mean, that is one of the biggest mysteries, I feel.
A little deeper dive into just, oh yeah, I had a vegetable burrito during lunch. So yeah, she becomes a little more than just, a funny background character here. So kind of like the Gossip Girls, Jamie and Maya.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me stop the share. Kind of like them. I just, I had a lot of readers write to me over the past few years saying we'd really like to see Bean Girl as a character, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized, yeah, I'd really like to see that too. So I really do. I take suggestions. I take reader suggestions. I get a lot of wonderful emails from readers, and every once in a while they'll suggest certain people for main character. So I've got my eye on some others as well.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. It looks really fun.
Thanks. Yeah, I love the way this one came together. I really did. And it was one of those books that kind of wrote itself too, as opposed to Tyler, where I really struggled. Right. Ruby, I think there are 3 books in this series that flowed so easily, and that would be definitely Ruby is one of them, just Jamie. And I think it was because of my daughter.
Yeah.
And Becoming Brianna, the 4th book, that one kind of wrote itself too. I had some help with that. That was a little bit of an offshoot. It was about Brianna having a bat mitzvah. But because I've been through it and my daughters have been through it, there's a lot of rich material there. And I actually had my rabbi help me with that one. It was a really fun experience. So yeah.
Cool. So you were saying you were kind of finishing up the Ruby book, and do you mind telling us just a little bit about your process, or just kind of the,
sure,
story, then writing the story, and then illustrating? Like, how does that all work?
Sure. I could tell you a little bit about my process, and then I could show you a couple pages that I'm working on. Would that be okay? Yeah. Okay. So what I do is I do everything kind of in blocks. So what I do first is I think of the premise. I either have a character in mind or I have a story in mind. Either or. It's worked out both ways. Like for instance, with Ruby, I knew I wanted to use her as a character, and I had to figure out, a story for her. And I remembered at the end in Truly Tyler, not to, I don't want to like give too much away, but there's like a little vignette of her, winning a poetry contest. It's just like a little piece of spot art. And that kind of sparked in my mind, well, we know she likes to write poetry, so let me take it from there. So that's where that started. Sometimes I think of a story first, and then I kind of insert a character I think would work really well. Like for I knew I wanted to do a story about a bat mitzvah for Becoming Brianna, and I thought Brianna would be a perfect character for that because she hates being in the spotlight.
Right.
So anyway, so this time when I start with a story, I'll kind of work out like a synopsis and maybe write a couple paragraphs of what I want the story to be about. I run it by my editor, and we might go back and forth a little bit and brainstorm. And then I'll write not just one outline, but 2 outlines. So I write one for each character. Or in the case of Becoming Brianna, since it's just one character and it kind of flip between past and present. I wrote like an outline for the past Brianna and for present Brianna. So it's two outlines and they kind of, merge a little bit.
Right.
And then when that's all done and approved and usually rewritten a few times, I start writing my story or manuscript. And I just type it out in a Word document, and I don't illustrate anything because often things need to be changed in the story. So it's easier for me just to write out everything, and I'll just indicate where the art goes. Usually I'll just put it in parentheses or maybe put it in red type or something like that. And the graphic novel portions are written out kind of like a script. And the illustrated novel portion with the small little detailed pieces of spot art, that just gets kind of written as a prose story. So just a regular story. And then I'll, like insert like little pieces of art ideas, like just type it out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Take little notes for yourself too.
Yeah. So when, oftentimes I'll show it to my editor, then it'll, she'll tell me yay or nay, or just maybe parts of it need work, or, it goes through a lot of different rewrites, different types of rewrites. Sometimes I have to start over completely, and sometimes it's minimal.
Right.
And then when that is all set, when it's time for me to do not the final art, but rough art, as they call it. So it's just like little sketches. And then I will just do those in pencil really quickly, and I'll insert them right into the Word document. I'll scan them into my computer and just insert them. And then it goes through another whole editing process. And when all that is approved, that's when I start the final art. So let me do a screen share and see if I can find some pieces of art. Let's see. Sorry, I'm trying. Oh, there we go. Okay. So can you see this?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. So this is from my newest book, Remarkably Ruby. And this is just scene out of one of Mia's chapters. Mia has the graphic novel chapters, which are super fun to do. This is a really detailed one. I love
all the detail.
Yeah. I love doing bedrooms of these kids. I have yet to do it like a nice, neat bedroom. I don't think I've ever come across a kid who's who's kept their bedroom really neat. And she's like, and this kid is like, she's a perfectionist. So I was tempted, but I'm like, nah.
Some space that's,
Yeah. Plus it's just fun to, like have things strewn around in a room. So, that is just one sample. Oops, you could see these like little marching ants. That's just like a part of the art I was trying to pick up for reference. Let me see if there are some others. Here's some more. And here's some I'm in the process of coloring. Here's one here. So this girl I mentioned, she's a perfectionist. She likes to chew. She has this habit of chewing on her hair. So in that first scene, she's running for class president, and she's trying to work on her speech, and she's getting a little nervous. So she's chewing on her hair. She always does that when she's nervous. So this is just a piece of art that has like all the colored elements in it, but I like to get pretty detailed. So I'll add like shadowing and highlights. So I'll just show you an example of kind of what I do with that. So when I'm selecting, oops, there you go. I'm selecting her shirt with my stylus, which is the type of digital pen that I use. And what I do is I'll take my pen and I'll just kind of go around her shirt like that and just kind of highlight it just to give it a little more depth.
Well, that's so cool.
Yeah. So I love working digitally.
Yeah.
So I'll do the same with her pants. Oh, look, and I'm getting work done while we talk.
Hey, there you go. Multitasking.
Yeah, so you could just see it's I really enjoy it. People ask me all the time if I have a colorist, like a separate colorist for my books. Let me stop the share. And I don't, because that's my very favorite part of the process.
Just kind of like,
I love coloring. I'm in the third grade again. So yeah, and I'm a control freak, but yeah, I love coloring. So that's just like a little bit of a peek into the artistic process. That's like the final version of what I do.
That's so cool, because I know like most things are digital nowadays. So like, yeah, I didn't know exactly how that process worked, and that's really interesting.
Yeah, I work right in Photoshop. So it's actually how I started working in it with my comic strip before this, and I was so used to it, and I think I was meant to work digitally. I don't know what it is. Like I feel like I was made for this. So I'm glad I'm growing up in the digital age in that regard. Yeah, I just find it kind of expedites everything, and I'm a perfectionist, so I can fix my mistakes really easily, and I tend to work kind of tightly, and so it's right up my alley.
Nice. Well, that kind of ties into the tutorial. If you wanted to show us a little.
Oh, yeah, sure. You want me to draw Tyler really quickly?
Let me check our Q&A and see if anybody has any. We haven't really done the requests. Let's see.
Okay.
No, I don't see anything there. So yeah, you could do Tyler and or Izzy or whoever. Yeah.
Okay. I can just draw
a
good drawing of his head.
There you go.
Okay, let me do a screen share again. Let's see. Okay. You can see the screen okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me just find a good size pen here. Okay. So oftentimes like that was a mistake right away. I just start with the eyes. When I do presentations in person, I actually like to draw with volunteers. Like we'll draw characters together and then trade them when they're done, like real live drawings. So we have actual drawings on paper, and then we'll trade drawings, and it's a lot of fun. So
yeah, hopefully we'll be getting back to that kind of thing.
I know. I miss that. There you go. We have some braces. Yeah. Sometimes I forget when my characters have braces. And I have to really go back and check in the books. Sometimes I'll draw them without braces and realize, oh yeah, he also has this little birthmark right
his
there.
Little freckle. Yeah.
His little freckle. Yep. And oh my gosh, when I was double checking Tyler, all the drawings at the end, and then I remember when it was getting edited, like sometimes the editors would say, you left out the freckle, or I think this kid has braces.
How dare you?
Yeah, all the little details. So, and this is great because you can erase.
Yeah.
And then this is kind of cool too. If you select the elements, you can actually move them around too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Draw a little nose shadow. Gotta love a good nose shadow. So that is Tyler. Whoops. That R. See, this is me being a perfectionist. I'm so type A. So yeah, I won't draw the rest of his body because tends to get really out of proportion. I usually have to like kind of zoom in and out just to make sure the proportions are correct, but figured I'd give you a little bust shot of Tyler.
That's awesome. Just like the very simple lines that come together. So
yeah. Actually, I could color it really quickly too. Oops,
No.
sure what happened there, but that's as quick as it can be. What I do is in Photoshop, I actually work in layers. I don't really color like that. I'll kind of select an area and then it's just all these little techniques I do, but it makes it easier. Right there. And then he likes orange. He loves the color orange. So
Yeah, what was that in the the note about the
something? Oh yeah. I forget what it said. That's right. Orange, like my burning heart. I can't remember. Poor Tyler. He's such a nice boy.
Right? I can't imagine like if somebody read that note in my school, they would be like, oh.
Yeah, that was basically what I had to deal with in fifth grade. It's amazing that humiliation only lasted a day. But I'll stop my share now. But there's Tyler.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I was projecting or something, but I made him kind of the ideal boy for me in middle school. Like, sensitive and sweet, yet, cool and
right.
But he definitely had issues to work through. Definitely in this book.
Yeah, for sure. And I do like that. Yeah, the issues are still like the stuff that he was doing. Like any girl could be going through that stuff too. It's just
a lot of peer pressure stuff for sure.
Yeah, it was funny. Yeah, when my son was starting junior high and we were trying to figure out where he was going to go, and then like one of my coworkers was like, junior high is hell no matter what, so it doesn't really matter. I'm like, that's great, thanks. But
right. So the one thing I've noticed though is it goes so quickly. Maybe not if you're in it, but as a parent.
Right? Yeah, my son's almost halfway through. Well, yeah, halfway through junior high, and I'm like, oh, he only has like a year and a half left.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it goes so fast. Yeah, but they get through it somehow.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so do we.
Hopefully, yeah.
You will. Wait, do you have more than one kid?
No, I just have the one. So
okay. Yeah, it'll be nice and quick.
Yeah. Yeah, he's already counting down to like when he can drive and then when he can leave the house.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that goes by so fast too. Oh my God. Anyway, I think we're getting away from the whole
Was there anything else you want to share about like your process or anything? Did you want to take questions?
I would love to take questions if anyone has any.
Let's see what we've
Sure.
I mean, somebody said so many possibilities here. Are you going to do a whole class of characters, which you kind of address, like, just keep adding on the new characters and whatnot?
Yeah, I tend to rotate characters. Well, now that there's a pretty good pick of character. I mean, there's a big selection of characters that are ongoing. Now it's kind of nice. I can kind of pick and choose who to rotate, and I do tend to, kind of go back and forth between bringing some of my mainstay characters into the spotlight, and then or between that and kind of plucking out background characters or side characters and bringing them into the forefront, and then somehow they become the mainstay characters eventually. Right. And that's actually what I did with Positively Izzy when I chose Brianna for that, because I realized I had a 2-book deal when I wrote Invisible Emmy, my first book. And when I was originally, I thought, I'll write a part 2 about Emmy. But I realized after her story was done, and like, I think her story's done for now. Like, I can't imagine writing anything else right now. Not that I wouldn't approach her again, which I've done, but but I felt like a new challenge. And that's when I thought of her best friend, and who was already, a pretty well thought out character. I'm like, oh, let's see what we can do with her. So yeah. And then now I love Brie. I love writing for her. So yeah, so that was really cool.
Nice. And then I have somebody who's just saying, I'm really looking forward to reading your next book, haha, because their name is Ruby.
Oh, perfect. Actually, that's the name of one of my one daughter's, one of her close friends. And I'm not sure if I subconsciously picked it because of that, or it might be a part of it, but also I just think she looks like a Ruby. I don't know. It kind of came to me. And then I had a hard time figuring out a title for her. This is a problem with characters who have their names already. It's the title. I've got to work around this name. But yeah, I don't know. She just seemed like a Ruby to me.
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna be super fun. And then I have one more question. Have you used your husband's experience as inspiration?
I'm wondering if I have. Sometimes I do it subconsciously. Definitely that's happened with my daughters. My husband, not so much. Although I will say something about his childhood that I'm aware of. I didn't know him as a kid, but he was always. I don't think he was so much accident prone as he was always getting himself into trouble and just getting hurt. You know? And I think he like broke every bone in his body practically, or just hurt himself. So if I'd ever make a character, I think I would,
Super.
Yeah. No, he's kind of a like, what's the word for it without getting vulgar? He's kind of a, wiseacre. Oh my God, I feel like I'm 90 years old saying that, but so like a smart aleck. Also,
yeah, I was going to use the inappropriate word, but
yeah, try to be family friendly, but so like maybe a little bit of Joe in him.
Yeah.
I could see that. I could see him, I think he had that like obnoxious tendency when he was younger, a little bit, not like Joe, but a little bit of that. So yeah. But I don't think I've like intentionally written about him. Mm-hmm. But that gives me ideas. Any others?
I think that was it.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you wanted to mention, or?
Just I hope that you guys will read Truly Tyler, or read any of the books. Remarkably Ruby comes out May 3rd, I believe. So and you could pre-order it now if you want. You could go to my website and there's some links for pre-ordering. So it's just terrilibenson.com. I know it's tricky to spell, but I could actually probably type it out in, oh no, wait, I'm not sure if I can, but, oh my gosh, there's a Google alarm going off in my house right now saying come to dinner.
We can probably put it in the link on the YouTube.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, if you could do that. But and I actually have a lot of really fun links on my website too. There's links to my comic strip, there's links to activities and all the books. You could get box sets of the books. But yeah, I hope you guys order Ruby though. I think you're really gonna like it.
We're definitely going to get a bunch, and I'm definitely looking forward to reading it. And I'm looking forward to the Dead Rat comic. I want that to happen.
Oh yeah, I'm going to have to do that. Thank you for the idea. I will credit you.
All right. Mike, do you have anything? Mike.
I think that was a wonderful talk. Sorry, I had trouble. I was typing in terrilibenson.com in the YouTube chat here. So thank you very much for joining us, Terri. It was a wonderful afternoon. And Suzanne, you did a great job.
It was my pleasure. It was so much fun talking to you, Suzanne.
Yes, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So if you and your husband are out in the spring, come on out. We'll talk Remarkably Ruby.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I
In
love
the
the
store.
bookstore is amazing. I love the bookstore.
Well, you have a standing invitation to come by and do a talk with us. So
Thank
thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and please have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.